Welcome to the SEI podcast series, a production of the Carnegie Mellon University Software Engineering Institute. The SEI is a federally funded research and development center sponsored by the U.S. Department of Defense. A transcript of today's podcast is posted on the SEI website at sei.cmu.edu/podcasts.
Hi, and welcome to the SEI podcast series. My name is Jay Palat, and I am a senior engineer at the AI division, as well as the interim technical director for AI for Mission. With me today is Hasan Yasar, who is the director of continuous deployment of capability at the SEI. Today, we're going to discuss the engineering of AI systems with SecDevOps, what that means, the challenges and strategies for organizations who want to learn more. Welcome, Hasan.
Jay, thanks for having me in. I'm really looking forward to have a great conversation with you on a lot of buzzwords, MLOps and DevSecOps, SecDevOps. You said the SecDevOps a minute ago, and happy to be joining a great discussion with you and talking a lot of topics as well.
Cool. So to kick us off, tell us a little bit about what does it mean to be the director of continuous deployment of capability?
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot of term. Let me start with what I'm doing it here. So I'm a technical director at the Software Engineering Institute and under Continuous Engineering Continuous Deployment Capability Group. As we name out the continuous deployment capabilities, our job and our mission really delivering a capability to the end users. That capability including any type of systems and softwares. And using the modern techniques and modern practices or any practices really relevant to organizations. When I say the relevant organizations, every organization has its own business needs and its own complexity. Really, we would like to make sure that we are delivering capabilities timely and high quality and reliable and secure system that goes into the end users. We don't want to be going fast and failing fast, but we would like to go fast and deliver high quality for the end users. That is my job, but it is really hard to do that. It is requiring a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding business domain, a lot of connectivities that as we are supporting various and SEI customers, including DoD and other industry folks as well.
On my side, as doing the interim director of AI for Mission, our goals are kind of aligned. Our goal is to figure out how to build AI capability for actually implementing things for different missions. And as a similar thing of having to learn business domains and understanding how people want to use AI, and then figuring out how does it actually kind of connect into their workflows. So there's some good overlap in kind of the types of work that we do. Let's talk about DevSecOps and how it relates to AI systems.
All right. Yeah, let's start from the foundation. Exactly. Maybe I should start from DevOps first, Jay. I mean, there's a lot of people are saying, why is DevSecOps? What is DevOps? What are the differences? DevOps, it's basically, I know it's kind of a typical terminology is bringing dev and ops together, developers and operation team. But in reality, DevOps is really connecting all stakeholders across the lifecycle. I know it's really started based on the movement that came from operational team because there was a disconnect what the developer are delivering to the operational team, which is requiring them to restart infrastructure potentially, maybe reconfiguring their component, or maybe not ready for the changes as quick as what developer wants to have it. To solve the connective problems between developer and ops, it is requiring other stakeholder involvement. That's the reason it's not just the dev and ops. It is requiring to the business connection, as you said, and Jay, we really would like to connect our business needs, which is our user needs. When we look at the rights, like an operational side, when we try to go to the left side in the lifecycle perspective, like in a kind of a concept of shift left concept, to solve some operational problem, we have to do some homework in advance. Like we have to really talk about architectural, we have to talk about some requirements, we have to understand our infrastructure, we have to understand our deployment mechanisms to meet the user needs, which is operational needs. That's the reason DevOps is requiring all stakeholders' involvement with the strong collaborations and strong sharing, and also using a lot of automation techniques because we would like to go fast. We cannot go fast if you don't use automation. We cannot go fast without testing, etc. as well. So it's kind of like a combination of sharing practices and also using the right tools and using automations with the goals of delivering a business capabilities timely to the users. So it's kind of a DevOps perspective. Why we are saying a DevSecOps? And that was a kind of long journey. I want to go long journey. But as a community, as a DevOps community, we kind of either unintentionally or some sort of like, our timeline, we ignored the security. We said, okay, we will do security later on. We realized that since we are going so fast in the continuous delivery concept, CD, or the continuous integration is a CI concept, we're using a lot of practices. It's all the continuous practices really makes us very difficult to integrate security practices at the end when we are really ready to release, when we are ready to deploy. The security became a bottleneck. Now, as a community, we said, let's do the DevSecOps because we have to address the security as throughout the life cycle. So if we have done a great job in a DevOps implementation, we should not call out the DevSecOps. But we are not doing a great job as a community. We are explicitly calling out the security should be part of life cycle. That is what the DevSecOps means in intent. So when you look at this perspective, he always says we have to use a set of common practices. Like set of common practices are a sharing, communications, continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous feedback, continuous monitoring. Maybe you say, Jay, let's add the continuous for everything. Yeah, I heard that. Continuous of everything is basically what we are saying DevSecOps. Using those practices and then using the common infrastructures, common DevSecOps pipeline, which is the environment that we are talking about. I think we have to really separate out the two elements. One is the more about talking about the practices and how we are doing all this CD or CIs and continuous, etc. Then where we are using these practices in an environment, which is our DevSecOps infrastructures, which is end-to-end software pipeline or delivery pipeline. You never call it. Basically, we are kind of building a capabilities, delivering from beginning to end through the pipeline. So that's kind of like overall what the process pieces, what technology, which is a typical classical term, and then looking for common practices and common deployment techniques. That's what the DevSecOps it is right now in this day and age. It will change. Again, this is what we're using right now, but in the future, we may call something else. But our intent is really go fast in a reliable and secure system that we deliver at that.
I will say from like past lives and past places where I've worked, making that transition is often hard at multiple levels, right? The initial thing of like, you've got developers who are working in isolation, building up this thing, and then they try and throw it over a wall to an operations group. Converting that to a place where smoothly handoffs are happening, where people are having conversations about, what is our capability, both from what is the software delivering and what is the operations environment we're working into, has made things go a lot faster. It feels like all the talking should slow things down, but it turns out it speeds it up because people have a better understanding of the context of what the application is supposed to do on the operations side and what the capabilities of the operations side are, especially in protected environments.
Jay, I'm gonna open up that topic. You said a keyword. Actually, I like that what you said. When we look at operational needs in a typical operational world, they're using a lot of common techniques already. Like IT folks are able to scale up the many deployments, many configuration elements for any systems, any software they do. They already have a lot of mechanisms to handle the different configurations, different deployment at scale. What is really missing the connections as a developer teams and architect, we're not taking advantage of the knowledge that comes from operational world. Or we're not able to take a knowledge that sharing what I have to do in advance using the baseline images as an example, or using the same configuration does from the IT operational persons or team does, or using the approved software with respect to security teams are using it. Like we always, as a developer, we always like to get and write the code. I mean, actually, I'm giving a lot of examples from my class. I'm teaching at the CMU. Most of my students, when I give a project to them, Jay, they really would like to write the code. They said, hold on a second. I know you're going to write the code. You just go to Google it and copy and paste it, write the code. But there is a science behind it. The science is really understand what you're trying to build it, what is the intent and what is the purpose. Then you can build up the softwares and systems. Still, you're going to be copy and pasting. Still, you can use a lot of existing framework. You might be using it. But as the developer or architect, we have to know what we are building, what the intent are. So we don't need to know everything, but at least we have to communicate with the team members with the other stakeholders, as we said, architects and testers and operational team, secret team, so we can go much faster, much quicker by talking the right people, right team members.
Definitely. And that virtuous cycle of deploying and communicating back, I mean, it's maybe dating myself a little bit, but when you talk about people who are moving from the cloud, I know there's been plenty of applications where I've moved the application over just lockstep, not thinking about what the operational environment looks like and how the cloud operates, which makes me create like very large monolithic applications, which are very expensive to run in the cloud. Whereas like once I understand that, hey, in this new environment, I should do things a little bit differently, getting that feedback from my operations team helps me re-architect the application so that it works smoothly and effectively and efficiently in the new environment. But so a lot of like interesting work that's happening there, and the field has come along a long way as we move from DevOps to DevSecOps. But on the horizon, we're seeing these MLOps, machine learning ops. Obviously, AI has a lot of new capabilities that people are very interested in. What's your perspective on the relationship between MLOps and DevSecOps?
Let's look at how the MLOps term really started and what is the intent of MLOps term. Maybe we can connect to some of the practices that we have been doing under DevSecOps concept. So when we look at the machine learning or operation, which is we are dealing the same type of problem that we discussed, Jay, right? We are building capabilities. Capabilities is X black box. We don't think about a black box. We have running some softwares and some systems, end user will like it, which is operational pieces. As we start from the right side, going to the left, from operational to the early life cycle that we are building in software and systems, we start to see some problems, either not able to build up a software and system meet the user needs, which is business needs, or not able to connect the monitoring pieces of how our system is behaving in an application production environment. I know we are doing as great as the developer or architects or data scientists. Is that really great that we build it? Is it really working what it's supposed to be in an operation environment? So that actually the community said, let's try to bring the machine learning team members, which is data scientists and then machine learning expert, to connect with their operational team to monitor how the model is behaving and look at the data sets as well for data sanitization, data cleansing, data preparations to build up the model, then use that model in operational world as well. Because if we are building a model, if model is not meeting the user needs as intended to be, then we are wasting our time, which is calling a technical debt reality. So we are spending a lot of time and money and energy building up a model. The model A may not be meet the user needs. B may not be deployed in an application context, which is creating a debt for us. So to solve that problem, then as a community, we said, let's bring up the two worlds together and calling as MLOps, machine learning operations. So when we look at the DevSecOps pieces, indeed, are the MLOps concept using the same concept of the DevSecOps concept that we have been saying. Like what are the concepts are? We said sharing, first of all, right? What the sharing means, using the same business objective, same business goal. What that means for MLOps concept, we would like to share our business objectives that we are building, like we are creating a model for what? What type of problem that we are solving? Problem usually comes from our business needs. Maybe we are looking for some fragile transaction, our transactions that we are doing a lot of financial systems. Maybe we are analyzing a lot of pictures. What type of pictures will it matter to us? Maybe we're looking for some audio record. Look at it's more about the business driven. So really connecting the business driven, then going back to our data scientists prepare what right data sets needs to be prepared. So we don't want to be creating a data as randomly. We have to create a data meet our business needs. So we are using that data with the ML code together. Eventually, we're going to talk about more. So we have a right data sets. Then we have to really keep the data versioning as we are working on it. Why is it important? Because this is not a one-time job we do, Jay. It's a continuous. Because I never ever seen that we are building an application that stays forever, especially ML system that you're talking about. It is constant evolving. We are getting better and better and better. I know all of us, we are using a lot of daily MLOps application or ML application, our lifecycle, like, some Siri, maybe other Google example, many example in our daily life. Even if we are using the face recognition, our phones or the fingerprints, all are getting better and better because it is using a lot of data. It's a continuous process. So what's really telling us in a lifecycle perspective, what we are building right now, it is not as a static. It's a dynamic. It is evolving. To meet that evolvement needs in the lifecycle perspective, we have to connect our business objective, which we have to do. We have to measure it. Are we doing well? Are the model is working what it's supposed to be? So we have to collect the data from the production environment, feeding back with the new data sets potentially for data scientists. They can tune it, they can prep it. Now it goes to the machine learning. They can spend more time to test different algorithms potentially, maybe different configurations. So when we look at this perspective, it's the same as in DevSecOps component or DevOps environment that we have been talking. Each of the configurations has some code in it. I know we have a data, but we are configuring data different version potential. We have to know which version. The same concept is also true for application build mechanisms. We are building application, we are building a software. Each of the software has a version. Each version has the code that goes together with the version. We are kind of labeling as a part of the CI process. Then also we are creating other artifacts with our application. Other artifacts are the environment as an example. Other artifacts are the test harnesses. Reflecting that practices in an AI ML environment that we are building, we have to know what type of configuration parameters or the tweak that we use in our data preparations and the scripting. We can the version of data, or we need to have a trace of the algorithms and some other techniques that we use in our machine learning code pieces. We can keep the versioning. Why matter to us? Because when it goes to the production environment, as the team of the scientist or the ML engineering team, or we are working maybe different version. So if something that we discover from the production environment, we have to go back to previous version. How can we go back to previous version, evaluate those, requiring a DevOps principle, such as using the shared environment, like using a repository management example. And also another things we have to look at that environment perspective. How are we testing the model on different environments? It's going to behave differently potentially, which we have to use a lot of DevOps principles, again, like an infrastructure as a code, infrastructure as a code, which is IAC, will help us to use the same configuration over and over and again. We can script those environments. We can run it and then use the new model, use the new data sets and monitor those, feeding back to the all stakeholders and users, data scientists, and ML engineers. That's kind of like how the DevOps principle is really helping to solve some challenges that we have been seeing on the AI communities. Again, there are a lot of studies happening over there. Actually, one of the studies, the 2020 State of Enterprise Machine Learning study, was clearly saying that more than 70% of applications are failing to deployment into the production environment because either we don't have the right data sets, or we are not able to deploy timely to the end users, or we're not able to configure the environment properly, or we're not able to really monitor how the system is behaving. These are the typical problems is really DevSecOps is really solving with the concept. I know I give a lot of information, Jay. I hope maybe you can unpack a lot of content here, but it's just the overall concept is here. Let's go fast. When you go fast, let's be smart and look at all the data sets in our lifecycle perspective.
Absolutely. You said a lot of stuff that resonated with me. And I think that kind of to bring together, I mean, the use of static data sets, the one that people can just like grab off of like public sources, is kind of the equivalent of the copying code that your students do from like what they find in Stack Overflow, right? It's not really thinking about problem-specific issues or your specific business. It's looking at generic sets with good samples. A lot of folks who talk about AI now talk about AI as software 2.0. And in software 2.0, we code by example. And that's what the data sets are. It's like bringing together lots of examples of all the different things that we expect to see in our data set, in our world that we want to make predictions on, right? And so creating new tools, and that's kind of like where we are right now of like, how do you do code control for examples? How do we make sure that we can figure out what data set was used for what model? under what parameters? How are we slicing up that data so that when someone sees a result in production, they can go back and recreate it by looking at, okay, how do we build that model? How can we augment that model then to see, does this new set of data help us correct for it? Talking about things like data drift, as like the world changes, as we develop, spam is an interesting case, right? We developed tools for detecting spam using machine learning. And what happens is we got spammers who got better at manipulating those rules and figuring out how to avoid detection again. And so there became maybe not chicken and egg, but more of like a race of like who can get further ahead with like creating spam creation rules or spam detection rules. But I think that, to your point of being able to monitor what's coming in, seeing what's happening, and then using that to communicate back to the team of like, here's some examples that did not work the way that we expected them to, really is critical for making improvements to the code, making improvements to the models, that we can turn that around and get improved models back out there.
Jay, I would like to add a couple thoughts as well here. And we need to also kind of think about how to really share the information from operational usage on how the model is behaving, and to feed back to the machine learning scientists or data scientists or other stakeholders. And also developers, they have to know as well like what the model looks like, as an example. To have that type of communication also requiring a smooth operational environments, which is another point we always miss that. Like, yes, we will like the work, we can talk together, we have to share the same vision and same goal, but we have to use the same environments to communicate. Because sending through the email is different, sending a chat message or the build message is different. And I tell you, 99%, I always test my students as well. If I respond email, nobody really returning my email. If I put some chat message or the non-Slack, I get response right away. The same is also true. Like, it's always, we learn, we are in a society, we would like the same platform to communicate, same platform to share information. That's kind of like MLOps pipeline that we are talking about, or DevSecOps pipeline we are talking about. If you're not able to collect the data from usefulness, maybe test harnesses that we may have, or the production environment we have, if it is not shared and stored in a common environments in the pipeline, it is very difficult to connect the dots. It's becoming a person repositories. We don't want to have a person repository anymore. We should have a common repositories that we can share the information with all stakeholders. Like, again, we are a human. Like, we always like to use our laptops, and sometimes I forget what I did it. I have to look at the history of what I am working on it, which is requiring some sort of a traceability or any type of information. We track what the model is that we build it, what the purpose are, what the trick that we use. We can go back and look at the improvement perspective. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. I mean, I'm sure same as well for Jay. If I write the code about 6 months ago, if I look at it, I don't remember anything. It's a reality. We are in a fast-paced environment. That's reality. Just train is moving, and then always our production environments always behind what we are working on it. That means it's really telling us we should have connected the both ends. What is really working right now, what currently we are working, we can improve ourselves, and then we can go back what we have done at the past, which is requiring a great end-to-end pipeline. In engineering perspective, we can look at and trace those information, we can build up better.
I think it's one of the big things that changed for me in moving to DevOps and DevSecOps is the importance of making good commit messages. Really about being able to say, what is this change doing? And be able to communicate to my future self of like, this is what I was thinking when I made this change. So that when I have to go back and figure out, why did I do this thing 6 months later, it's like, it becomes clear of this is what the thinking was. I think that's going to be one of the challenges moving forward with MLOps and AI is just, how's the right notation to make sure that we're keeping track of like, this is why this set of features was important, or this is the set of things that went into these examples or this data set that helps me figure out like, what was the thinking that made it make sense. Definitely going to be an interesting challenge of communicating to my future self like what I was thinking went into this process.
That's a study on that type of commit messages or the connecting with the environment perspective or the pipeline. And a lot of organizations, honestly, they are blocking the code commit if there is no case number associated with the commit. As a developer, yes, we would like to write the commit message into our code content. And there is another enforcement and on the code, why we are writing the code, what is the purpose, and tell me the case number, which is giving another lesson learned or the traceability for us, what things that we are working on it. Same thing is also true for ML perspective. What things we are working on, what the version of data we are working on, what things that we will produce, what is the purpose? Because we are kind of thinking for future, as you said, direction. We are planning our future work by recording ourselves. And actually, I'm going to share the one study here, Jay, and I think I'm right. So the one of the big organization, actually, I think their name is a GitLab. They build up a most knowledgeable organization as producing a lot of ebooks. So what they have done, they record every lesson learned as their shared information as what they have done in their work-wise. They kind of create traceabilities. They have more than 70,000 ebooks they can publish quickly. So what is really telling me as an organization, as an evidence, we have to really collect information as shared environments. It is going to solve the problem as individual contributors becoming a team contributors. Mm-hmm. If it is individual, I may not remember everything. Everything is going to be on my laptops, and then I'll become a bottleneck. You know the bus problem, right? If something happens to me, an organization will lose the infrastructures and knowledge on my work. What we are saying in an MLOps concept and DevOps concept, we would like to share the information with all stakeholders, keeping same repositories, either mandating with the requirements on the code repositories that we committed, or creating an organizational policy or the practices, let the people are sharing knowledge as shared with other people, either the chat or the wiki pages or a SharePoint, something that can build up the knowledge. We can really use over and over and again, because a lot of components are usable. We can go back and take a look and improve better because we are dealing with the speed. We are dealing a lot of pressure from end user perspective. Let's get some feature out of the door as quick as possible because we are racing with the market, either demanding the user needs that we have to serve as a business, or we have to really be on top of what we are delivering capabilities. Our warfighters and then people are on the field, they can do their job as quick as possible, as high quality as possible, which is we are racing with the time. It's not as same as before, we have to wait a month. We cannot wait a month anymore, honestly. Sometimes we have to wait a day. Like another thing, maybe I'm kind of hijacking our conversation a little bit, but I have to give this example which happened recently. And there was a Spring Framework vulnerability that came out on Friday. Now, everybody's struggling in the community. Am I vulnerable? Is it working in my machine? Is there any problem in my environment? Now everybody's talking about the DevSecOps again because of the bill of materials again, for traceability again. It is becoming a readiness. It's true for every application that we're working on it. It's about readiness. We cannot really wait another day or week to respond quickly in any outage or a business needs because train is moving so fast.
Too many 0 days are coming out where suddenly a vulnerability is discovered and then people are taking advantage of it immediately. The time for the other side to take advantage of our lapses is becoming smaller, right? They're able to automate. SolarWinds kind of told a lot of that story of like automated platforms that are discovery of a 0-day vulnerability that was taken and used very quickly.
Right. Yeah, I think we should make it more readiness. We are talking about being ready, being resilient. Resilient means like we should be ready for any outage. It's also true for the data perspective as well. If model is not working what is supposed to be, how much quicker we can retrain that model based on the new needs that we discovered, push into the production environment. So we can really measure those metrics like MTTD or MTTR, mean time to the recovery, mean time to detect. These are the key principles also true for model perspective. Like if model is behaving badly, how much we can go quickly and respond those outage immediately so model will work as supposed to be.
And how do we make sure that we're tracking the right metrics to do that? I think to your point earlier, of like you have a life cycle where we're building these models, we're deploying them out there. The other part of that is making sure that we're monitoring them. How are we watching them and putting that back in that context so that all the stakeholders can be aware of, like, is our success rate, staying the same? Is it falling? Are we seeing more false positives or more false negatives coming out of the model that we need to figure out? Is it doing the right thing, or should we be replacing it? Right. That continuous monitoring of capability. We started that in DevSecOps to be able to monitor things, and I think AI forces us to really double down on that lesson, right? Of making sure that all the good practices we do for DevSecOps, we're really using for our new systems, AI systems as well. I do want to take us in a slightly different direction of, DevSecOps has been growing for the past number of years. I won't say that it's done and it's fully mature, but it's definitely kind of moved from a place where there were like thousands of options or many things to choose from to like some like best practices or leading practices or leading tools that people know how to choose and like have built good communities around them. In the MLOps side of things, we're still kind of our infancy. There seems to be like every day someone's turning around and providing a new framework or a new way of working. From your experience watching the growth of DevSecOps, what do you think is the best way for a practitioner to kind of make sense of like a rapidly changing environment in terms of like the tools and practices that are out there?
So great question, Jay. By learning my history of engaging with DevSecOps for years, I always really advise the people start from the why. It's really important, why I'm going to build. It's true regardless of our building AI systems or building an application, the static applications. It doesn't really matter. It's always the why I'm going to build, then really build up the pipeline to serve our needs. We always jump to the wagon and building up the pipeline to serve the needs. We really have to change the equations. We have to build up the pipeline for our AI ML deployments or system deployment based on our needs. It's important. We have to understand, why are we building? What is our target? What is our business environments? What is our technology? We have to build a pipeline as we go as a team. There are many existing MLOps pipeline available from different vendors, different cloud providers. There are many DevSecOps tools available in the market. Can one solve every problem? No. But really, we have to look at our problems that we are looking for to solve it, and then look at the tools to serve our needs. Like I give all this analogy for my students as well. I always say, if you go to the Home Depot, you're buying your tools. You always have a project in your mind where you're buying your tools. You're not going to Home Depot just buying a sake of tools just to like it. That's not a true statement. We always have a projects that we are looking for. Okay, I'm going to achieve this project. What I need to have this to achieve this project, I'm looking for the tools. This is also true on the software world as well. Look at what are we trying to build up. Then choose the tools. Then look at the environment. Again, you're not doing every time. Once you build up your pipeline with respect to your deployment delivery, then you have to be really monitor those, and you have to maintain those infrastructure as well to serve your needs. I give another example here as well, which is very important. We always getting in a trap of let the tool is dictating us what to do, which is the wrong purpose as well. We have to build up the common practices for our business needs. Like what the common practices are, we have to have a continuous integration as an example. We have to have a sharing of the data model that we are working on. We have to have a habit of using the code repositories for ML code perspective. These are the practice. These are the process. Then use those process, bend the tools to serve our needs. We don't want to using the tools to bend our process. It is too bad. It's becoming a problem. Then you cannot change because tool is dictating what to do. No, we should dictate the tools what we have to do with our business needs, with our business objective, with our common process. That's kind of a more team structure that I'm talking about. Otherwise, there's a lot of study again. Otherwise, will be a tool junkie organization. There are a lot of surveys. It's happening. I know I'm not against the tool, Jay. I'm saying we have to pick the right tools for the right purpose. Like one tools cannot do everything. It's impossible. But combination of two tools with the serving our needs makes possible for our work as well. There are a lot of criteria. Maybe we can talk about another podcast, what type of criteria we should use to select the tools, some quality attributes and other capabilities. But what I would like to say as overall, start from our why, start from our business needs, and then build up what things you should have your pipeline perspective, improve the pipeline. At the same time, improve your set of practices. That is kind of a cultural elements comes in the picture. You will see that as the organization, you have to reach out to many team members. Maybe you're going to talk with your data scientists. You will see some problems in your communication, maybe. Maybe you will see some siloed organization. Who knows? That's going to be your discovery. And start and process improving your organizational culture. At the same time, build up the tool infrastructure to serve your needs. And as an organization, you will see which one is not working for you, which one is working for you, and then you will improve it. Improvement is always our business objective, which is we have been saying since we started the podcast. It is important to serve our needs. Okay, that's kind of solving some why I'm building to serve our user needs, to our customer needs, what I have to do and how I'm going to do, which is a kind of a typical process I always advise to the people.
That is great advice. I think starting with why are we doing this, looking at it can help people navigate what's the right tools and practices they need to adopt, right? It's not about following, whoever's the trendy thing or what is the latest blog post that you read about. It's looking at your mission, understanding what you're trying to accomplish, and then figure out a set of metrics to help you kind of figure out which of these tools or processes are going to help you achieve your mission and get it going effectively. Obviously, a lot of things going on right now, but I think it's a good heart of advice to go to of really understand what you're trying to do and head in that direction.
Exactly. As a community, Jay, we are failing on using the same configurations over and over again. No, we are not there yet. We may use the same tools or same code bases, which is growing that direction, and everybody has different needs in organizational perspective. Yes, we are using the same language potentially. We might be using the same libraries. That's perfectly fine. We're using a lot of dependencies. It's okay. We're using a lot of algorithms already. But implementation is really changing based on our user needs.
Yeah. The changing environment, you said it earlier, right? Everything's changing very rapidly now. Where in the past we might have months or weeks to deal with things, we're now getting closer to days where the reality is changing. We need to make sure that we're adapting. And to build fast organizations, having the right processes and tools in place can help us do that. Understanding the mission and then building the infrastructure to support that mission the best way possible.
I'm just going to add one more thing here, Jay. I know we are running out of time, but I have to say that it's basically balance of people and process and technology. You cannot have just a pure technology that you set up your great MLOps pipeline. It is working perfect with your studios, and then you have all these gadgets and working with a container base. You're not going to solve the problem. You need the people to use it. Or you should have the process to let the people are following the right platform to use it. It's a balance. You cannot build up one leg and then another two leg and another leg. We have to really work as a team together as the organizations, building up right processes, educate our people, and build up right technology so we can really get better. And is there any limit? Limit is our organization structures, limit our success. We're always looking for improvement. For me, there is no actual limits. The sky's the limit, but we have been saying at the CMU for all the time. We have to improve ourselves. And we will see a lot of problems as we are improving ourselves. As I said, maintaining the libraries is a problem, or maintaining some other data will be a problem. We may see some other scalability problem. We may see a data storage problem, maybe. Maybe we're going to see the resource problem, but we don't want to be getting everything great an environment. Let's start from as we go, as we build, kind of a journey. We really start our journey. We know our vision, our end goal, become an AI company. Yes, we would like to become an AI company. We would like to go fast and quick. We would like to deliver a capability, which is our very high level objectives. How we achieve our objectives, let's go step by step. Again, I'm not saying a maturity level. I'm talking about phase steps we can build up as a team together. We can work as a team together. And as a team, we will decide what is our next steps. kind of like using the agile methodologies as we go, plan your sprints, see how much you can get it done in a month, maybe in a sprint. Then you can get better in the next sprints and next sprint and learn what you have done in your mistakes. Maybe you have some communication problem you may be discovered. Maybe you have some tooling problem you may be discovering, and fix that problem as you learn, not wait years to discover those problems. Learn, practice, and then feedback to the team, improve yourself as an organization, I can advise.
That is great advice. I think being able to think through the world of iterating and kind of creating things, like try things out, give yourself a time limit, time boxing it, and then continuing forward is a great way to move forward. I think that's great advice. Any other parting thoughts you want to share with our audience?
And I'm just going to finish up the one thing, as you said, another keyword, just keep reminding me, Jay. You said iterative. When I look at the static application versus the AI type of applications, AI is more iterative. Honestly, it is requiring more iterative approach than the static application, because static application, we define the rules, we define the steps and functions in our application that we are building, and then let it go. But we look at the data element, it is more iterative than ever before, which is really forcing us to be as iterative, as incremental as possible as we are building the model. I think this is a model we should really think about, that how can we improve ourselves as iterative, incremental, building up our models and using the data. It's really a key point. We should not really ignore that. It is not a static application that we built for years.
Absolutely. I think that is an important point to get through and make sure everyone remembers that, like, this is a world where it's very dynamic, and we need to make sure that we're adapting to it. We're no longer in a place where things are static, but we're seeing a lot of change, and DevSecOps and MLOps gives us some tools to help us manage that change and help people with their applications deploying and succeeding in their missions. So thanks again, Hasan. I look forward to having a continuation of this conversation in a couple of weeks as we talk about deploying AI systems with MLOps. And for everyone else, thank you for talking with us today. We'll be including links to the transcripts to resources mentioned during this podcast. Finally, a reminder to our audience that our podcasts are available on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, as well as on the SCI's YouTube channel. If you like what you hear and see today, please give us a thumbs up. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. This episode is available where you download podcasts, including SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. It is also available on the SCI website at scI.cmu.edu/podcasts and the SCI's YouTube channel. This copyrighted work is made available through the Software Engineering Institute, a federally funded research and development center sponsored by the U.S. Department of Defense. For more information about the SCI and this work, please visit www.scI.cmu.edu. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email us at info@scI.cmu.edu. Thank you.